Well, questions often arise regarding the zoning of activities on rural land, which is treated differently than non-ag properties. Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law joins us now with some guidance. And Roger, as always, thanks for taking the time to chat with us here this afternoon. Of course, numerous states have enacted agritourism legislation to limit landowner liabilities. But is an agritourism activity considered agriculture for zoning purposes?
Well, that's a good question, Janet. Good to be with you today. The answer to that question is depends, and I'm not trying to hedge the answer. It depends on the particular language of a state statute, and largely they're going to say that a person who's engaged in the business of farming or ranching and provides one or more defined agritourism activities, whether or not they're compensated, is protected from liability for injuries. Now, there's a lot of stuff loaded into that. So you've got to watch the definition of what is an agricultural activity, what is agricultural land, does it matter whether they're compensated or not? That's all kind of rolled into that. So that's why the answer depends from state to state.
And Roger, what about confined livestock operations? How can they create issues, of course, with local zoning?
Well, that's another issue that's out there that's a really important one and can create some consternation in counties because the county rules are going to be different. Some states will allow home rule, some states will not allow home rule, and that means that the counties where home rule is allowed, they get to set the rules. Other counties don't get to set the rules. So in the counties that set the rules, we have to look at what they use as the definition for agriculture. What is, do they use a more traditional definition, or do they use a broader definition that would allow the confinement of animal production activities, those livestock facilities of any size whatsoever? And again, the answer to that question is going to vary from county to county, from state to state, all across the country.
So, Roger, what would you say is the big takeaway here, and where can folks find the information they need for their own local properties?
Well, I just wrote a piece on this, so you can find it on my blog. It ran within the last couple of weeks. But these zoning issues arise. Rural land use issues are big, and so what may seem to be an ag activity may not be. And non-ag events on rural land might be questioned by zoning officials. That's where you go back to the agritourism issue. So those are a couple big issues. Also be aware when you're buying ag land, be aware of the present and perhaps future zoning plan status of that property before you acquire it. That's a good idea, too.
All right. Thank you very much, Roger. Appreciate it. Roger McEowen, he's with the Washburn University School of Law, on the phone with us today out of Topeka, Kansas.